In shallow coastal water, danger rarely looks dramatic at first. It arrives disguised as sunlight. The sea is clear enough to see rippled sand, broken shell fragments, waving seagrass, and the long, wavering shadows of people moving above the bottom. Warm water folds around the ankles, small fish flicker like silver sparks in the glare. Every surface seems open and readable, which is exactly why this environment can trick the human eye. The mind looks across the surface, toward the horizon, toward the clean blue line where water becomes sky. It notices waves, rocks, boats, birds, maybe the dark shape of a larger fish passing in the distance. It does not naturally read the sand as a living surface, but beneath that thin layer of brightness, the seafloor is not empty. It is a hiding place, a feeding ground, a nursery, a highway, and sometimes a trigger zone. A stingray can lie there almost invisible, pressed into the bottom like a shadow that learned the shape of the sand. When a stingray moves in open water, it can look too graceful to be threatening. The broad pectoral fins rise and fall in slow waves, making the animal seem less like a fish and more like a piece of living silk flying over the seabed. There is no frantic chase, no jagged predatory movement, no obvious aggression. It glides with an economy that feels peaceful because it wastes nothing. Over pale sand, its body casts a soft, moving shadow. Over seagrass, it slips between blades with patient control. Its eyes sit high on the body, watching from the top of a flattened world, while the mouth and gill openings work underneath, close to the food-rich bottom. Everything about its form belongs to a life lived at the boundary between open water and sediment. It is built to swim, settle, bury, sense, and vanish. That beauty is real. The mistake is assuming beauty means safety. The stingray's body is a map of compromise. A shark is built like a blade moving forward through open water, but a ray is built like a wing pressed against the sea floor. Its flattened shape allows it to rest close to the bottom, hide from predators, and ambush or uncover prey buried in sand and mud. Many rays feed on worms, mollusks, crustaceans, and small fish, using smell, touch, and electrical sensing to locate life hidden below the surface. The same sensory world that makes sharks so effective also exists here in a quieter form. A buried clam, a shrimp shifting in sediment, a small fish pulsing under cover. These are not invisible to the ray. The animal can interpret tiny signals that humans would never notice. To a person walking through shallow water, the bottom is scenery. To a stingray, it is a readable landscape full of food, vibration, pressure, scent, and risk. Most of the time, the stingray wants distance, not conflict. That is what makes its danger more psychologically uncomfortable. It is not an animal patrolling the shallows in search of human targets. It does not need a swimmer's leg for food. It does not gain anything by stabbing something too large to eat. Its venomous barb is defensive, not predatory, and that single fact should change the whole mood of the scene. The barb exists because rays themselves are vulnerable. Sharks, large fish, and other predators can threaten them, especially when the ray is exposed. A weapon placed along the tail gives the animal a last resort answer when escape fails. It is not there to create violence. It is there because violence already exists in the ecosystem, and the ray needs a way to survive contact with something bigger, stronger, or too close. The tail is where the calm image breaks. Behind the smooth body and wing-like fins, Many stingrays carry one or more barbed spines along the tail, edged in a way that can tear as it enters and exits tissue. Venom-associated tissue around the spine can make the wound far worse than a clean puncture. The mechanics are simple and ugly. If the animal is stepped on, trapped, pinned, or cornered, the tail can whip upward or sideways with shocking speed. The motion does not need to look cinematic to be devastating. A foot comes down into sand. Pressure hits the ray's body. The animal reacts before the person fully understands what is underneath. In one instant, the graceful shape becomes a defensive spring, and the tail turns into a weapon. This is why shallow water is so dangerous in a very specific way. It feels safe because it is shallow. People associate depth with threat. Deep water means sharks, currents, drowning, the unknown below. Knee-deep water feels domestic, almost harmless, as if the ocean has been reduced to something manageable. But shallow water brings bodies into the exact zone where hidden animals rest. The person is upright, distracted by glare, stepping through a bright moving mirror. The ray is below, flattened into sand, relying on stillness and camouflage. Both animals are following normal rules. The human is walking, the ray is hiding. The problem begins when those two normal behaviors overlap in the same square of sea floor. The human eye is badly designed for this situation. Sunlight fractures on the surface and throws moving patterns across the bottom. Waves distort shape and distance. Sand color shifts with every ripple. A stingray's outline can disappear under a dusting of sediment, leaving only the faintest curve, a buried edge, or the small raised position of the eyes. Even when the animal is visible, the brain may not recognize it quickly because it does not match the urgent threat shapes people are trained to notice. A dorsal fin cutting water gets attention. A snake-shaped body gets attention. A wide, flat animal resting under sand often becomes part of the background until the foot is already too close. That is the psychological trap. People look through shallow water as if transparency equals knowledge. It does not. Clear water can still hide an animal perfectly if the animal is shaped like the bottom. For the stingray, being stepped on is not a misunderstanding. It is an attack from above. In the language of pressure and survival, the weight coming down through the water column may feel like a predator's strike. The ray has no time to analyze intention. It cannot separate a careless foot from the crushing bite or pinning force of something trying to eat it. The defensive response is immediate because hesitation can be fatal in nature. This is one of the hardest lessons for humans to accept about wild animals. Intent does not matter as much as contact. The stingray does not need to hate you, target you, or choose you as prey. If you enter the wrong space in the wrong way, your body becomes part of its emergency. The injury itself carries the brutal signature of a defensive weapon. A stingray barb can penetrate deeply, especially when driven into the foot, ankle, calf, or lower leg of someone standing in shallow water. The serrated structure can create tearing trauma, while venom can produce intense pain and local tissue effects. In serious cases, the danger is not only the venom, but the location, depth, bleeding, infection risk, and damage to tendons, blood vessels, or other structures. This is why the stingray should never be reduced to a simple sting. That word sounds too small, too insect-like, too easy to dismiss. The reality can be a deep puncture wound made by a marine animal using a hardened spine as a defensive blade. The ray may flee immediately afterward, but the body it leaves behind is forced to deal with pain, shock, damaged tissue, and the dirty biology of seawater entering an open wound. There is no villain in this scene, which makes it more interesting than a simple predator attack. The stingray's grace is not fake. Its calmness is not a trick in the conscious sense. It is not pretending to be harmless while waiting for a victim. It is simply living according to a design that works. Stay low, blend in, feed from the bottom, avoid unnecessary conflict, and defend hard when touched. That is a colder kind of danger because it does not depend on aggression. A crocodile attack can be framed as predation. A snake bite can often be framed as defensive fear. A stingray strike sits in a strange middle space where beauty, accident, and violence meet in less than a second. The animal did not come for you, you came down onto it. The camera would understand this better than the human foot. From above, the shot begins with a beach that looks harmless. Pale shallows, soft wavelets, sunlight rolling over clean sand. Then the perspective drops lower, into the water itself, where the bottom becomes complex. Tiny holes mark burrowing animals. Shrimp antennae vanish under sediment. Seagrass roots hold the sand together. A stingray lies partly buried, its body outline almost erased. Only the eyes, spiracles, and faint wing edges reveal that the sand is occupied. A human shadow crosses the frame. The ray stays still because stillness has protected it countless times before. Then the foot descends too close. The entire mood changes. Sand erupts. The body flexes. The tail snaps. The peaceful floor becomes a weaponized boundary. That boundary is the real subject of the chapter. Untouchable does not always mean aggressive, poisonous, or visibly monstrous. Sometimes it means an animal owns a small invisible circle around its body, and crossing that circle turns calm into consequence. The stingray teaches this more elegantly than almost any animal because its beauty lowers the viewer's guard first. It moves like a ribbon. It hides like a shadow. It rests where people feel safest, and when surprised, it reveals that defense does not need anger to be deadly. The ocean is full of animals that do not want to fight, but they are still armed for the moment when avoidance fails. By the time the stingray disappears again into deeper water, the surface returns to looking innocent. The ripples smooth, the sand settles, sunlight resumes its bright pattern across the bottom. Nothing in the scene announces what just happened except the wound and the sudden knowledge that the shallows were never empty. That is the lesson this animal brings to the untouchable world. Not every dangerous creature attacks because it wants to. Some strike because a larger body entered the wrong space, forced the wrong contact, and gave a defensive system no room to choose anything softer. Beauty is not safety. Calm is not permission. And in shallow water, the most dangerous thing may be the part of the seafloor that is alive. Above the open country, the first sign of the wedge-tailed eagle is not a scream or a sudden shadow. It is a shape held almost perfectly still in the sky, turning in a slow circle so high that the animal seems detached from the world below it. Heat rises from the earth in invisible columns, lifting dust from red tracks, bending the air over dry grass, and carrying the eagle upward without a single wasted movement. Its wings are long and broad, its tail narrows into the unmistakable wedge that gives the bird its name, and for a moment the scene feels less like danger and more like command. The eagle does not need to hurry because the sky itself is carrying it. The ground is the place where animals panic, hide, feed, breed, and make mistakes. The air is where the eagle watches all of it. This is why large raptors create such a strange reaction in humans. People look up before they think to be afraid. A big eagle circling overhead does not trigger the same instinct as a snake in the grass or a crocodile at the waterline. It creates awe first. The size, the silence, the effortless control of height and wind, all of it makes the animal feel almost untouchable in a literal sense. It is present, but unreachable. It can be seen, but not approached. It seems to belong to a cleaner, more open layer of the world, far above mud, teeth, blood, insects, and scrub. That impression is beautiful, but it is also exactly where the misunderstanding begins. The eagle is not distant because it is separate from violence. It is distant because distance is part of the weapon. Across Australia's open habitats, from arid inland plains to woodland edges and broken grazing country, visibility can be both gift and curse. For animals moving through grassland, scrub openings, road edges, or exposed paddocks, the ground may feel enormous. A rabbit leaving cover, a young hare freezing near a fence line, a lizard crossing bare soil, a small wallaby or weakened animal moving between shelter patches. Each of them may believe the danger is close to the ground, because that is where most danger has always been. Foxes, dingoes, snakes, goannas, and feral cats work from the same level as the prey. They push through cover, follow scent, listen for movement, or wait near trails. But the wedge-tailed eagle changes the geometry of fear. It does not need to be behind a bush. It does not need to leave tracks. It reads the whole scene from above. The eagle's power begins with vision. From altitude, the landscape stops being a clutter of shrubs and stones and becomes a pattern of movement. The smallest break in rhythm matters, a body crossing open soil, a flash of pale fur, a limp, a hesitation. The sudden stop of an animal that realizes it has been exposed too late. Raptors are not watching the world in the lazy way humans watch clouds drift over a field. They are sorting motion, distance, contrast, and opportunity with predatory precision. A wedge-tailed eagle does not need every animal to be visible all the time. It needs one animal to move at the wrong moment, in the wrong gap, far enough from cover that the distance to safety becomes longer than the distance from the sky. The hunting itself is built around patience before speed. The eagle can soar for long periods using rising warm air to gain height with minimal energy cost. This matters because flight is expensive when powered by muscle alone, and large birds cannot afford to flap endlessly without purpose. So the eagle waits in the air, conserving effort, widening its search, letting terrain and weather do part of the work. Thermals become invisible elevators, ridges and wind shifts become routes. The bird is not simply flying over the land, it is using the atmosphere as a hunting platform. That is one of the quiet lessons hidden in its beauty. The huge wingspan is not just spectacle. It is an energy strategy, a way to remain above the battlefield long enough for the battlefield to reveal a weakness. Below, small animals live under a ceiling they cannot touch. That ceiling may be empty for hours, then suddenly occupied by a predator that sees more than they can imagine. Open ground becomes dangerous, not because it has no cover, but because it has no lies. Every movement writes itself across the surface. A rabbit that bolts from shade to burrow is fast, but speed becomes information. A lizard that pauses on a sun-warmed rock is camouflaged until the angle changes and the body outline separates from the stone. A young animal that lingers too far from shelter may not feel hunted at all, because the hunter is still only a dark curve far above the horizon. This is the untouchable cruelty of the eagle's position. It can be outside the prey's immediate world while still controlling the prey's chances inside it. When the decision comes, the sky changes character. What looked like calm circling becomes alignment. The eagle adjusts its wings, narrows its path, and begins converting height into speed. The drop is not always a vertical plunge like a falcon's stoop. Wedge-tailed eagles often use a powerful descending approach shaped by terrain, wind, and target behavior. But the effect on the ground is the same. The distance between beauty and violence collapses. A bird that seemed almost ceremonial in the sky becomes mass, talons, wings, and timing. The approach may be partly hidden by glare or angle. The prey may only register the shadow or the rush of air in the final seconds. By then, the open ground that looked like space has become a trap with no roof. The talons are the point where distance becomes contact. Eagles do not need teeth when the feet have been built into gripping weapons. The legs extend, the toes spread, and the curved claws close with force designed to seize rather than politely touch. For small prey, the first successful grab can end the chase immediately. For larger or struggling prey, control matters as much as impact. The eagle must manage flapping wings, kicking limbs, twisting bodies, and the risk of injury. This is not weightless elegance anymore. It is a physical contest, and the eagle's beauty becomes functional violence, wings for balance, talons for restraint, beak for tearing, body mass for pressure, and timing to avoid giving the prey a clean chance to escape. The wedge-tailed eagle is also not limited to one simple hunting image. It may hunt live prey, scavenge carrion, follow roads where animals are struck by vehicles, or exploit open country opportunities created by drought, fire, farming, and human disturbance. This flexibility is part of its success. In harsh landscapes, predators that survive are rarely one-note specialists. A carcass on a roadside can feed an eagle without the cost of a chase. A weak animal separated from cover can be worth the risk. A pair of eagles may work the same area, using pressure, position, and repeated passes to unsettle prey. None of this makes the bird less majestic. It makes the majesty more honest. The eagle is beautiful because its form is efficient, and efficiency in a predator means something on the ground is paying for it. There is a strong psychological difference between this danger and the dangers closer to the body. The platypus punishes touch. The stingray punishes the wrong step. The crocodile punishes the wrong edge. The wedge-tailed eagle punishes exposure. Its untouchability is not hidden in a spur, a barb, or armored jaws. It is built into distance. You cannot grab the eagle. You cannot outrun its view. You cannot negotiate with an animal that has already seen the landscape from a better angle than you ever will. For prey, the open field is not just a place to cross. It is a place to be measured. The eagle reads the ground like a map of mistakes. Even humans feel the force of that reading, though we are rarely the target. Standing under a circling wedge-tailed eagle creates a strange awareness of being visible. The bird may not care about us, but the direction of its gaze changes the feeling of the land. The sky is no longer empty decoration. It is occupied by a mind built to notice weakness. That is why people stare. The eagle makes the air feel intelligent. Its silence does not feel vacant. It feels selective. It chooses when to spend energy, when to ignore, when to drop, when to keep circling. In that choice is the predator's authority. On the ground, the animals that survive under this pressure do so by treating openness with suspicion. Cover matters. Timing matters. Group vigilance matters. The edge of shade matters. A small mammal that feeds too long in the open increases its risk. A bird that breaks from cover alone may draw attention. A reptile basking in sun must balance warmth against visibility. because thermoregulation itself can create exposure. In dry country, survival is often a negotiation between needs that conflict with each other. An animal must eat, warm itself, travel and find mates. But every movement away from cover increases the chance of being seen from above. The eagle does not invent those conflicts, it exploits them. The most cinematic version of the wedge-tailed eagle is not the strike alone, but the long silence before it. The camera begins low, close to grass stems and cracked earth, where a small animal edges into the open. The light is harsh enough to flatten the land. The wind moves seed heads in slow waves. Nothing seems immediate. Then the perspective rises, higher and higher, until the same scene becomes brutally exposed. The animal that looked hidden from ground level is now a moving mark on a pale surface. Far above, the eagle turns once, then again. It does not need dramatic music. The geometry is already terrifying: ground, distance, movement, timing. The equation is complete before the prey understands it has entered the calculation. That is the lesson this animal brings to the untouchable world. Beauty can come from control so complete that violence is delayed until it becomes unavoidable. The wedge-tailed eagle does not need to be near to be dangerous. It does not need mud, venom, camouflage at the ankle, or a sudden tail strike from the sand. It owns the vertical space, and with that space it owns perspective. The creature below may feel the earth under its feet, smell the grass, hear insects, and believe its world is local and manageable. But above it, the eagle has already made that world smaller. You cannot stop looking because the bird is magnificent. But looking upward is not protection. Sometimes it is only the moment before the sky decides to fall. At the edge of a shaded Australian creek, where the morning light has not yet burned through the mist, the first sign of the platypus is almost nothing. A thin ripple moves across the surface. A small, dark shape rises, breathes, and disappears again before the eye can fully decide what it has seen. The water closes behind it as if the animal was never there. Along the bank, tree roots grip the mud like old fingers, fern fronds lean over the current, and drowned leaves gather in slow pockets where insect larvae, worms, freshwater shrimp, and tiny crustaceans hide beneath stones. It is a soft-looking place at first glance, all green shade and cold water, but the creek is not gentle. It is a system of pressure, hunger, temperature, competition, and hidden movement. Every animal living here is solving a survival problem, and the platypus solves its problems in one of the strangest bodies in the animal kingdom. It looks almost impossible to take seriously. That is the trap. The platypus carries the outline of a creature that feels more curious than dangerous. A rounded, furred body, a flat tail, webbed feet, and that broad, rubbery bill that seems to steal all attention from the rest of the animal. It does not have the clean threat language of a crocodile or a snake. There is no jawline designed to terrify, no exposed fang, no talon raised into the light. Even when it swims, it does not look like a killer cutting through water. It looks secretive, awkward, almost shy, paddling through the creek in short dives and brief appearances. That is exactly why it belongs at the opening of an untouchable story. The platypus is not frightening because it looks brutal. It is frightening because the body hides the warning where almost nobody thinks to look. The face invites the wrong kind of confidence. The bill looks soft, even harmless, but it is not some decorative mistake. Underwater, the platypus closes its eyes, ears, and nostrils, shutting out the obvious senses and entering a world that most mammals would find almost unreadable. It does not search the creek bed by sight. It reads the mud through electroreception and touch, detecting faint electrical signals and pressure changes produced by small prey moving beneath stones, leaves, and silt. That bill is a scanning instrument, a biological sensor sweeping the riverbed with astonishing precision. As the animal dives, its front feet drive it forward with powerful strokes, the webbing spread wide like paddles. When it comes onto land or digs into a burrow bank, that same webbing can fold back enough for the claws to work. Nothing about this animal is random. It only looks absurd because humans are bad at recognizing designs that do not match familiar categories. The platypus is a mammal, but it refuses to behave like the version of mammal most people carry in their heads. It lays eggs. It feeds its young with milk. It wears dense waterproof fur that traps insulating air against the skin, a crucial advantage in cold, fresh water, where heat is stolen from the body dive after dive. It stores prey in cheek pouches, surfaces, grinds its food, breathes, and dives again. Its tail is not just a flattened decoration. It stores fat and helps with maneuvering, especially in a life split between water and earth. Its burrows run into the banks above the waterline, providing shelter from predators, floods, exposure, and the constant instability of creek edge life. The animal is not a joke, it is a specialist. It is a quiet machine built for one of Australia's most demanding freshwater niches. But the part that changes everything is not the bill, the tail, or the webbed feet. It is the hind ankle. Adult male platypuses carry sharp venomous spurs on their rear legs connected to venom glands. That single fact destroys the harmless cartoon version of the animal. The danger is not in the smile, because there is no smile. It is not in the mouth, because the platypus is not biting prey apart like a predator built around teeth. The danger is hidden low on the body, almost like a secret blade placed where the viewer's attention rarely goes. A person can look at the animal's face, its wet fur, its strange bill, and its compact body, and completely miss the real warning system. That is what makes the platypus so valuable for this chapter. It proves that danger in nature does not always announce itself from the front. The spur is not a hunting weapon. That is important, because making the platypus into a tiny venomous assassin would be cheap and wrong. It does not swim through the creek injecting worms or stabbing shrimp in the mud. Its hunting system is already handled by sensory adaptation, diving skill, and relentless foraging. The venomous spur belongs to a different kind of biology: defense, close contact, and male competition, especially during the breeding season. In that context, a weapon does not need to kill to matter. It only needs to make contact costly. It only needs to deliver enough pain, swelling, or distress to force an opponent or handler to release, retreat, or remember the mistake. A male platypus does not have to look terrifying if the hidden weapon makes another body regret touching him. That is the darker truth behind the animal's softness. The platypus becomes dangerous when the boundary is crossed. From a distance, it is a secretive freshwater mammal going about its life. In the hand, trapped, cornered, mishandled, or forced into a struggle, it becomes a completely different problem. The hind leg can drive the spur inward. The weapon can puncture. Venom can enter the wound. The pain reported from platypus envenomation is not some mild sting that matches the animal's gentle appearance. It can be intense, long-lasting, and shockingly disproportionate to what people expect from such a small, strange-looking mammal. That mismatch is the entire horror. The face says curiosity. The ankle says consequence. This is where the platypus becomes a perfect example of untouchability. Many animals warn the world with obvious signals. A snake lifts its head. A spider spreads its legs. A stonefish hides its spines, but at least the injury comes from stepping on an animal already built around sharpness. The platypus is more psychologically deceptive because the danger is wrapped in charm. It is not just hidden by camouflage, it is hidden by cuteness. People are drawn toward animals that look soft, rare, awkward, or harmless. That instinct is useful in a world of pets and picture books, but useless in wild ecosystems. Nature does not sort animals by human emotional reaction. A body can be beautiful, ridiculous, ancient, and dangerous at the same time. The platypus is living proof. In the creek, its life continues without drama. It slips below the surface and searches the bottom, bill sweeping over stones and submerged wood. Tiny electric signals from prey create a map no camera can see. Silt lifts in small clouds where the platypus works. A dragonfly skims overhead. Somewhere deeper in the bank, a burrow entrance opens into darkness, a private tunnel cut through mud and root. This animal is not trying to impress anyone. Most of its survival depends on secrecy, repetition, and efficiency. It must eat heavily because diving in cold water costs energy. It must avoid larger predators. It must maintain territories, find mates, and return to safe shelter. The venom spur is not the center of its life, but it changes the cost of interfering with that life. The irony is that the platypus has become famous for being weird, but weirdness can distract from function. People laugh at the bill, the eggs, the webbed feet, the strange mixture of traits, as if evolution somehow made a joke. But the animal is not a punchline. It is an old solution still working in modern water. Egg-laying does not make it primitive in the lazy sense people often use. Electroreception does not make it magical. Venom does not make it monstrous. These are tools preserved and shaped by real survival pressures. The platypus feels impossible only because humans prefer clean categories, and the platypus does not care about those categories. It is a mammal that lays eggs, hunts with electricity-sensitive skin, swims like a low shadow, digs into banks, and carries venom on its hind legs. That combination is not messy, it is brutally original. For the viewer, the important shift is not just learning that the platypus has venom, it is learning how badly first impressions can fail. The most dangerous reading of this animal is the casual one. Small, cute, strange, therefore safe. That logic collapses in the wild. Safety is not measured by how soft something looks. It is measured by what happens when you enter its space, grab its body, block its escape, or ignore its defenses. The platypus does not need to chase anyone. It does not need to attack dramatically. Its weapon is built for close-range correction, and that is enough. Some animals dominate by force. Some survive by speed. Some disappear into camouflage. The platypus adds another category, the animal that lets you underestimate it until contact teaches the truth. There is a quiet brutality in that design. Not gore, not spectacle, not a predator's open violence, but a more subtle kind of biological warning. The platypus shows that beauty is not always sharp teeth. Sometimes beauty is a calm ripple under eucalyptus shade. Sometimes it is a furred body vanishing beneath cold water. Sometimes it is a strange bill reading invisible signals from the riverbed while the real weapon waits near the ankle, unseen and unadvertised. That is what makes the animal unforgettable. It is not untouchable because it looks deadly. It is untouchable because it does not. The first mistake is believing that stillness means absence. In northern Australia's tidal rivers, where mangrove roots hold the mud together like black fingers and the water moves with a thick, oily patience, The saltwater crocodile can turn itself into part of the landscape. It does not need to perform danger. It does not need to pace, hiss, circle, or flash its teeth. It can sit at the surface with only the top of the skull showing, eyes and nostrils lifted just above the waterline, the rest of the body erased beneath brown current and reflected sky. From a distance, it may look like driftwood. From closer, it becomes worse than driftwood, because the mind finally recognizes the armored head, the ancient eyes, the ridged back just under the surface, and the terrible calm of an animal that has no reason to hurry. The saltwater crocodile belongs in the world of the untouchable because it creates a dangerous contradiction. It is almost impossible not to stare at, but staring at it does not make the viewer safer. There is visual gravity in a large crocodile that few animals can match. A big cat is beautiful in a muscular, readable way. A snake can be elegant or frightening depending on how it moves. A crocodile feels older than the scene around it, as if the river has kept one prehistoric thought alive and given it teeth. Its skin is not smooth skin in the mammalian sense, but armor, heavy scales, raised scutes, scarred plates, mud-dark ridges, and a head shaped by pressure rather than expression. The eyes are positioned high on the skull, not for charm, but for surveillance from concealment. The nostrils sit high too, allowing the animal to breathe while most of its body remains submerged. The mouth closes into a line that looks almost carved, and because the face gives so little away, the animal seems less like it is resting and more like it is waiting inside a decision already made. That stillness is not laziness, it is strategy. A saltwater crocodile is an ambush predator built around conserving energy until the exact moment energy becomes violence. In hot coastal systems, energy matters. The crocodile is ectothermic, drawing much of its body heat from the environment, moving between water, sun, shade, and mud to regulate temperature. A long day may involve basking on a bank, slipping into cooler water, remaining submerged, or shifting position with minimal effort. To the careless observer, this can look like sleep, but the animal's sensory world is not switched off. Crocodiles can detect disturbances in water with sensitive structures in the skin around the jaws and body. A ripple, a splash, a footfall near the edge, the vibration of an animal stepping into mud. These are not background noise. They are information. The crocodile is still because the whole environment is moving for it. The waterline is where its design becomes most dangerous. On land, a crocodile can be impressive, even frightening, but in the water it becomes something more difficult to judge. The surface hides length, mass, tail position, and direction. Muddy water removes depth perception. Mangrove shadows break up the outline of the head. Floating leaves and branch reflections add false shapes. A crocodile can hold position with astonishing control, allowing current, shade, and shoreline clutter to disguise the size of what is waiting below. This is not invisibility in a magical sense. It is camouflage through patience, geometry, and the human eye's weakness at reading broken water. People naturally scan the surface, but the attack begins from below the surface, from a body they have not fully measured. The strike is the moment when the fossil illusion collapses. The animal that looked carved into the mud suddenly launches. The tail drives first, throwing stored power through the body. The legs brace or push if the animal is close to the bank. The head surges upward or outward with a speed that feels impossible because the seconds before were so empty. A saltwater crocodile does not need a long chase to be effective. It needs the target to be close enough to the edge low enough to reach, distracted enough to misjudge the distance. Then the stillness becomes acceleration. The water explodes, mud breaks, and the body that seemed frozen reveals that it was never inactive. It was compressed. The bite is only the first layer of danger, and focusing only on the bite makes the animal easier to misunderstand. The jaws are extraordinary, built for crushing grip rather than chewing. Conical teeth puncture and hold, locking into flesh, while the muscles of the head and neck turn the mouth into a clamp. The famous jaw pressure matters, but not because the crocodile is simply trying to slice like a knife. It is trying to secure. Once the jaws close, the prey's problem is not only pain or tissue damage, it is control. The crocodile now owns the direction of the encounter. It can pull backward, twist, submerge, reposition, and use the water itself as part of the attack. The victim is no longer dealing with just an animal, it is dealing with an animal plus the river. That drag under control is what makes the saltwater crocodile one of the most frightening shoreline predators on Earth. A bite on land is already catastrophic, but a bite at the edge of water changes the rules instantly. The mud is slippery, the bank may collapse, the water removes footing, panic burns oxygen. A body that could fight, kick or brace on solid ground becomes awkward and slow in the current. The crocodile, by contrast, is exactly where it is strongest. Its tail provides propulsion. Its body rolls with terrifying force. Its nostrils and throat anatomy allow it to manage breathing and water in ways that support a semi-aquatic hunting life. The attack becomes less about a wound and more about relocation, from air to water, from balance to panic, from control to drowning pressure. This is why the location matters as much as the animal. A saltwater crocodile does not make every inch of northern Australia equally dangerous. It concentrates fear along edges, river bends, muddy banks, boat ramps, mangrove channels, tidal creeks, floodplains, estuaries, and crossings where animals must approach water. The edge is a biological trap because every land animal eventually needs access. Wallabies, feral pigs, cattle, birds, dogs and humans all become vulnerable when drinking, fishing, launching a boat, washing hands, crossing a channel, or standing too close to brown water. The crocodile does not need to invade the land, it only needs to control the border where land animals become careless. Mangroves make that border even more complex. Their roots create shadows, funnels, hiding places, and broken sightlines. Tidal water moves in and out, changing depth and access through the day. A bank that looks safe at 1 hour may become a channel at another. Mud records tracks, but it also hides slides and depressions where crocodiles enter and leave. The ecosystem is rich because these places are productive. Fish shelter among roots, crabs dig through mud, birds feed at low tide, and larger animals come to drink or cross. Productivity draws life, life draws predators. The same habitat that looks lush, ancient, and cinematic is also a working ambush machine. The saltwater crocodile's patience is what makes human confidence look ridiculous. People want danger to move first. They want a warning that feels fair, a charge, a splash, a visible approach, a clear sign that the animal has chosen the moment. But ambush predators do not owe fairness. Their success depends on denying the target that warning. The crocodile's stillness is not a pause before the story starts. It is the story. Every minute spent floating motionless near a bank increases the chance that another animal will make the fatal assumption that nothing is happening. Humans are especially vulnerable to this because attention decays. The first time someone sees a crocodile, fear is sharp. After several minutes of watching it do nothing, the brain begins to downgrade the threat. That downgrade is trash survival logic. The crocodile has not become safer. The observer has become bored. This is also why the animal feels prehistoric in a deeper sense than its appearance. It belongs to a lineage shaped by ambush, endurance, and low-cost dominance. It does not need constant motion because its method is not based on chasing everything it sees. It can wait through heat, tide, insects, noise, and long stretches of nothing because one mistake near the edge can pay for all that patience. That is not primitive, it is efficient. The crocodile is not a leftover monster accidentally surviving in the modern world. It is a highly refined predator still using a body plan that works brutally well, where water hides mass, and land animals must eventually come close. In a documentary frame, the terror should begin before the attack. A wide shot follows the river at low tide, mangrove roots exposed, mud shining, flies moving over the bank, water sliding silently past. Then the camera tightens on a shape near the surface. At first, only the eyes break the reflection. A bird calls, a small fish jumps. The crocodile does not move. The shot holds long enough to become uncomfortable because the viewer starts doing what prey does, searching for proof that something will happen. Nothing happens. That is the proof. The animal is not absent from the scene. It is occupying it so completely that the scene has adjusted around its silence. Then the camera shifts to the shoreline itself. This is the real danger zone. Not the open river, not the dramatic middle channel, but the dirty strip where feet sink into mud and bodies lean forward. The edge looks usable. That is its cruelty. It invites approach. It gives access to water, shade, food, and passage. But for a crocodile, the edge is not a boundary. It is a launch point. When the strike comes, it is not a random explosion from nowhere. It is the result of perfect placement. The crocodile has been facing the correct angle. Its body has been hidden at the correct depth. The water has been doing half the camouflage. The prey has been doing the rest. After the attack, the river can become calm again with obscene speed. Ripples spread. Mud clouds drift. The mangroves remain still. The surface that just broke open returns to its old shape, and that is almost the darkest part of the scene. The environment does not look transformed. It looks the same as before, which means the danger was present even when it seemed peaceful. The crocodile teaches the untouchable lesson in its most ancient form. Looking is not control. Admiration is not distance. Recognition is not safety. You can stare at the animal because it looks like a dinosaur, because its body seems carved from another age, because its stillness feels impossible in a living thing. But the moment you stand in the wrong place, the story stops being about what you see. It becomes about what the water has been hiding. In the Tasmanian night, danger does not always arrive silently. Sometimes it arrives as a scream from the dark, roar enough to make the forest feel smaller. The sound cuts through wet eucalyptus, fern shadows, cold soil, and fallen bark with a violence that seems too large for the animal making it. A Tasmanian devil is not built for elegance. It does not glide like a stingray, circle like an eagle, or wait with the prehistoric patience of a crocodile. It enters the imagination in a completely different way. Compact, black, heavy-headed, restless and loud, with a mouth that opens wider than expected and turns the face into a sudden flash of red. It looks chaotic because everything about it seems amplified. The stance, the sound, the feeding, the jaw, the impatience. But the chaos is not random. Once the bite is understood, the animal stops looking like a noisy accident and starts looking like exactly what it is, a small predator scavenger built around force, confrontation, and the ability to process death. The landscape around it helps explain the design. Tasmania's forests, scrublands, grasslands, and coastal edges are not soft places just because they are green. Cold rain moves through the canopy. Nights can be wet and sharp. Fallen trees rot into the soil. Wombat tracks press through mud. Wallabies feed in openings. Possums move through branches. Birds settle into cover. And every living thing leaves behind scent, blood, droppings, fur, feathers, and eventually a body. Death does not sit unused in a wild ecosystem. It becomes an opportunity, a temporary concentration of calories in a world where energy must be found, defended, swallowed, or lost to something faster. The Tasmanian devil belongs to that darker economy. It is not merely an animal that eats carrion. It is one of the creatures that turns carrion back into movement. The visual pull is immediate because the devil does not look polite. Its black body absorbs light, making the white chest markings and red interior of the mouth stand out with almost theatrical contrast. In torchlight or moonlight, the head seems too large for the body, the jaws too serious for an animal of that size. The ears may flush reddish when the animal is excited or stressed, adding to the impression that the whole creature is overheating with aggression. Its gait is low and purposeful, not sleek but stubborn, as if the body was designed less for grace than for getting into the middle of trouble and staying there. This is not the beauty of refinement, it is the beauty of blunt function. The devil looks intense because its world rewards intensity. At a carcass, that intensity becomes impossible to ignore. A dead wallaby in the scrub is not just food, it is a signal spreading through the night. Odor moves through damp air and over ground. Insects arrive, other scavengers may investigate. But when devils gather, the scene can collapse into a feeding argument with teeth. The screaming, growling, coughing, lunging, and jaw gaping can look like a riot, but much of it is communication under pressure. Every animal is negotiating access to a limited resource without wasting more energy than the meal is worth. The noise is not just madness. It is spacing, threat, rank, frustration, and warning, delivered with the volume turned cruelly high. If the stingray teaches that danger can be hidden under calm, the Tasmanian devil teaches the opposite. Sometimes the animal tells you exactly what it is, and the smart response is to believe it. The bite is the center of the story. Tasmanian devils have exceptionally powerful jaws for their size, with a skull and muscle arrangement suited to crushing and tearing. This matters because scavenging is not easy feeding. A fresh carcass may still have tough hide, tendons, cartilage, small bones, dense muscle, and joints that resist casual chewing. A weaker animal can feed from soft openings and leave much of the body behind. A devil can go deeper. It can tear through tissue, crack smaller bones, consume skin, muscle, organs, and other material that turns a carcass into usable energy more completely. That is not monster behavior. That is ecological efficiency. The animal's brutality has a cleaning function. It reduces waste, recycles nutrients, and helps prevent dead flesh from remaining exposed for long periods in the environment. This is where the devil becomes more interesting than its reputation. Popular imagination often treats it like a miniature demon, all temper and teeth, but that is a lazy reading. The real animal is more useful and more complex. It hunts when it can, scavenges when it can, and uses its senses to locate opportunity over a wide landscape. Its strong sense of smell helps it find food in darkness. Its nocturnal behavior reduces some daytime competition and fits a world where scent and sound often matter more than color. It is not large enough to dominate every predator by size, so it dominates through another language: speed to the resource, willingness to fight, shocking sound, and a bite that makes close contact dangerous. The devil is not a monster. It is a compact solution to a hard survival problem. The feeding chaos also reveals something important about scavenger ecology. Carcasses create temporary communities. Beetles, flies, bacteria, birds, mammals, and microbes all become part of the breakdown process. The devil is one of the larger, more visible players in that process, and its feeding can change the pace of decomposition. By tearing open a body, dragging parts, crushing bones, and consuming tissues quickly, it alters access for smaller organisms and moves nutrients into different pathways. The forest absorbs death through many mouths. The devil's mouth just happens to be one of the loudest. It is easy to focus on the horror of the sound and miss the ecological service underneath it. A clean forest is not a forest without death. It is a forest where death is processed efficiently. Still, none of that makes the animals safe to romanticize. The untouchable quality of the Tasmanian devil comes from how completely its behavior warns against closeness. Some animals require interpretation. A buried stingray may be invisible. A platypus hides its venom spur behind a strange, charming body. A crocodile may look still enough to be mistaken for landscape. The devil gives a simpler message. The open mouth, the harsh vocalizations, the shoulder-forward posture, the snapping, the black body moving aggressively around food, all of it says distance. This is danger as body language, not elegant, not secretive, not subtle. Every part of the scene tells the viewer that this animal is not inviting contact. That warning becomes especially clear when food is involved. Around a carcass, personal space shrinks and the cost of interruption rises. A devil feeding alone may pull, chew, pause, listen, and return to the body with determined focus. Add another devil and the scene changes. Jaws open, heads jerk, shoulders push, teeth flash, sound fills the space between them. The animals may avoid full injury when threat displays are enough, but bites and scars are part of the reality of a life spent competing at close range. This is one reason the devil's face often carries the history of its world. It is not an animal designed to remain pristine. It is designed to survive repeated physical negotiation. There is a grim honesty in that. Many animals look cleaner from a distance because we see them outside the hardest parts of their lives. The devil is often seen exactly where biology is least polite. At the carcass, in the dark, mouth open, body tense, feeding hard. It forces the viewer to face a part of nature that documentaries sometimes soften. Ecosystems are not maintained only by beautiful hunts and graceful movement. They are maintained by scavengers, decomposers, bacteria, and animals willing to put their faces into the aftermath. The Tasmanian devil is visually shocking because it stands at that intersection between life and remains. It takes what is dead and turns it into fuel, reproduction, movement, and survival. The bite also carries a lesson about scale. A person might look at a devil and see an animal much smaller than the famous predators of Australia. It is not a saltwater crocodile. It is not a great white shark. It is not an eagle casting a shadow from the sky. But size alone is a bad measure of seriousness. A compact body can still be highly specialized. A short skull can still hold enormous leverage. A small predator can still be dangerous when cornered, handled, threatened, or forced into conflict. The devil does not need to be huge to be untouchable. It only needs to make the cost of touching it obvious. In a cinematic frame, the chapter should not make the devil look like a fantasy beast. That would cheapen it. The real version is stronger. The camera begins low in a damp Tasmanian forest after sunset. Rainwater beads on grass. A carcass lies partly hidden near a track, fur wet, ribs beginning to show where feeding has started. For a moment, only insects and silence occupy the scene. Then a black shape enters from the edge of the frame, nose working, body tense. It circles, tests the air, grips the carcass, and pulls. The jaw does not look dramatic because it is trying to impress anyone. It looks dramatic because the work is hard and the tool is powerful. Another devil arrives. The sound changes everything. The forest that seemed empty becomes crowded with warning. The red mouth becomes the visual center, not because the animal is evil, but because the mouth is the machine around which the whole moment turns. Teeth meet tissue, bone resists. Muscle works through the jaw and neck. The animal braces with its forelimbs and tears backward. Every movement is practical. Every ugly sound has a purpose. This is not chaos in the sense of disorder. It is chaos as competition compressed into one place. A carcass can feed multiple animals, but it cannot remove the conflict between them. The devil's intensity is what happens when survival has to be argued over in meat, noise, and pressure. By the end of the scene, the animal's untouchable nature is obvious without exaggeration. It is not untouchable because it is venomous. It is not untouchable because it hides perfectly. It is not untouchable because it can kill from the sky or drag prey underwater. It is untouchable because contact with it means entering the world of its jaws, its food pressure, its fear, and its refusal to yield space easily. Some creatures warn through color, some through stillness, some through camouflage. The Tasmanian devil warns through everything at once: sound, posture, mouth, bite, and the raw violence of feeding. It is not beautiful in the graceful sense, but it is unforgettable in the honest one. Every part of its behavior says, keep your distance, and in nature, that may be the clearest warning of all.